Just to give a 1 minute recap, just to remind we're discussing a question here. We're discussing and trying to understand in letter number 19, which is not really a letter, it's really an essay by the Maimer, by the Alter Rebbe, and we're discussing the idea of Torah and the awareness of Torah that Moshe Rabeinu had, etc. And the Alter Rebbe starts off quoting the Arizal. The Arizal writes in a sefer called Lakota Torah, a very similar name to the Alter Rebbe's Lakota Torah, but different. It's on the Parshas, but the different ideas from the Arizal. And it's recorded in the teaching of the Arizal that Moshe Rabeinu did not have an understanding of anything beyond the lower midos that exist. Just to remind ourselves, you have Chachma Bina Das, that's the Seichel. You have Chesed Gvur Teferes, a higher type of midos, and Netzach Chayed Malchus, a lower form of midos. He says Moshe only had what we call Nehim. Nehim is an acronym. Netzach Chayed Yisayid Malchus Nehim. Like Chabad is Chachma Bina Das. So he said only had Nehim, good morning, of Torah, of Hashem's existence. Which means it's almost shocking. Here is the greatest Navi of all time, the one who spoke to Hashem face to face. So every single thing we have today is channeled through Moshe Rabeinu, and we're saying he only had this level of Nehim. And the question we had was, how about the Arizal and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who came much later, and as great as they were Moshe Rabeinu, and they talk about Chachma and Keser and Atik and Arich and levels of all the higher levels of godliness above not just the higher midas and the higher of Seichel, but also above that, above Atzilus and above Keser, etc. So how could it be? And today we're starting the answer. That was our question we're discussing, and now we're going to the answer. So
perhaps we only have the Chumash from Moshe Rabeinu. We don't have other teachings from Moshe Rabeinu.
We have many teachings. Moshe Rabeinu taught the entire Torah, which means it says every single thing that we come out, every mimer that's given by the Rebbe, every Rabbi Akiva taught, everything Moshe Rabeinu was taught at Sinai, and we got to reveal it. The metaphor that I gave when we started learning this was to understand it's similar to the idea that before a baby is born, we teach the child, the angel comes and teaches the child all of Torah. And before he's born, he forgets it. And the child gets tucked on the slipper and he forgets it. And then he has to study in life to find it. So the question was, why in the first place teach it to him? It's like, here, I'm giving you $1,000. Now I'm taking it away from you. Go get a job. Well, what's the point? See, $1,000, I'll take it away. You don't have it anymore, even though there's a benefit that you owned it and you already established for yourself the power to own money. But by a child in his mother's womb, learning Torah, you're implanting within him already Torah. Now what he has to do is go rediscover it for himself. Moshe Rabeinu taught the entire Torah, every medrash, every Rashi, every Chumash, everything, except it was left to different people throughout history through their own intelligence and their own effort to discover and reveal that wisdom. That means any successful teaching is not fake. That's why is it called Torah? If Rashi wrote something as great as Rashi is, why is that called Torah? That's called Rashi's interpretation. Beautiful. Why is it called Torah? Because it is Torah. He just doesn't want to reveal it. Every Torah that the Chassidus it says, or in Halacha or modern Rabbanim who give qualified good classes or teachings, their teachings are, if done correctly, information that Moshe gave on Sinai, and now it's been revealed. So it's not my personal or this guy's personal teachings. It's his shearing and discovering or uncovering that which I was taught. For an example, nobody invented anything in this world. Everything when I say invented, I don't mean products. I mean medications and things. These are all things Hashem put. We discover it. We discover technology. We discover opportunities. Everything we have in this world, Hashem put these abilities here. And we discover and reveal Hashem put the power for electricity and for radio waves and all these things. We discover it. We uncover it. We find out how to use these things. It's not like we invented those things. What we invent is we're able to make tools to access it easier, to make it more user-friendly. That's the tools we can create. But the actual resources are all there from Hashem. So that's the idea. So all the Torah Moshe taught is everything taught later came from Moshe. So the question was, how could it be that the Arizal and Shimon Bar Yochai reached levels of Torah that Moshe couldn't reach on his own? Moshe was definitely the greatest prophet that ever lived.
Maybe because he just gave us like a The basics?
Homer Gelem, like basics, and then Arizal and everybody else developed.
Okay, you could say, which is a good point, but here he says that Arizal said that Moshe Rabeinu didn't have an insight, or he did not have access to this level, and he does. He said Moshe Rabeinu couldn't access Chachma Ilah, he couldn't access Atik and Keser, all these high things, yet we find that he does. It's a very shocking statement.
Exactly.
It's a statement by the Arizal, not the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe is quoting it to explain it. The Alter Rebbe gives such a beautiful, simple, and clear answer, and this is a very phenomenal and important chapter to understand the processes of how we access Torah, how we access godliness, as follows. So here we're up to on page 254. It's the second word on like the 10th line. The word is ach. We asked, how could the Arizal and all these other great rabbis, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, discuss and talk about Atzilus, etc.? 254.
Almost in the middle.
Yeah, it's about 1/3 on ach and yeah. Ach inyan hu pashut. He says it's simple. Move on lekol, it's understood to everybody. Sheish hefrish gadol ben astogas chachmei emes kerashbi v'Arizal. There's a big difference in what we're talking about. How the Arizal and the Rashbi understood Torah. Shehi hastogas chachma v'das, which is chachma and das, as we'll see in a minute what that means. It's intellect. It's all the wisdom. And different than Moshe Rabeinu and all the other prophets, that they had a different thing called nevuah. What's nevuah? Nevuah is not the same as understanding. No. Nevuah is, as we'll see in the next line, he says, what does it mean nevuah? What does it mean prophecy? Prophecy comes in the form of mechuna b'kasav, which is called in the Chumash, it means seeing. Like it says to Moshe, you will see my back. Or it says, Ve'eres Hashem by Yeshayahu, one of the greatest prophets, Isaiah, he says, I see Hashem. Or it says, V'yede Elo Hashem, Hashem appeared to Avram Avinu. The three prophets he refers to as Moshe, Isaiah, and Avram, Yeshayahu. All these prophets, it says, how did they relate to God? They saw. There's a very big difference between seeing and understanding. To understand that thing, or to see that thing, we'll give a very simple example. Imagine somebody wants to hear so much about the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon is the Grand Canyon. He says, I want to go see and experience it. So there's two ways to do it. One is to read a book about it. Someone can explain to you there's something called the Grand Canyon, and it's huge, and it's 2,000 feet deep, and it's 2 miles across, and it's the colors of the rocks, and you go, wow. Same thing with Niagara Falls. Same thing with any great place that you want to see. You want to see, the Statue of Liberty. All these things you can go and have someone explain it to you. You could read about it. You could hear someone describe it. You could pick up a book, even get pictures of it. But none of those could compare. And pictures today is actually a novelty we didn't have in this era here. Then there's something called going down and experiencing it firsthand. It's breathtaking. The experience is very different. So let's look at the pictures for now, because the pictures... What? What's that?
Just look at the videos.
Yeah. Who has to go? You don't have to go to the wedding. Just get a picture. You don't have to go see exactly. Why do you have to go to Yosemite? Watch a video. Bottom line is, the experience that you have when you go to these places, it's not just that you see it more or you understand it better. You see it. And this happens in a few different ways. One way is when someone wants to explain something to you, it's a process of detail by detail. You have to explain the flat surface and the white surface and the colors and the edges and the wind and all the details I have to explain. When you see something, so in 1 second, even to take something as simple as you want to describe, you went to someone's bar mitzvah, and you want to describe the table settings, how beautiful they were. And you come back, it'll take you 10 minutes to describe the napkins, how they're folded, the color tables, and the chairs, and chair covers, whatever you want to describe. You walk into the room, it's in 1 second. It's a whole different experience. I'm experiencing it completely, it's a whole experience. Moshe Rabeinu and prophets, they experienced God in a way of seeing. Not seeing like a video or picture, seeing actually being. Because you have to remember something else. We're going to talk about this in a moment. We're not talking about seeing with our eyes. When they saw God, it doesn't mean they saw God with their eyes. It's like saying, 5 times 5 is 25. Let me show it to you. You could show it with apples, yeah. You can show certain things with examples of it, but the concept, an idea, you can't say that's such an idea. Let me hold it for a minute. Let me look at it. Let me look at it again. It looks so good. So what does sight mean? Especially those are both physical things, a physical idea, a physical thought. Hashem is not something which your mind could see and you go see it. It means they experienced an absolute understanding in the level of vision. Just like you can't compare understanding when I'm talking about something to experiencing it. No, they say you had to be there. Why you just why have to be there? Because if you weren't there, as much as you were going to describe the sound, certain things, we hear, it gives us goosebumps. One of the famous things, Har Bayit B'Yadenu, when the in 1967 conquered the Temple Mount. Imagine being the guy there. It's something you can't even imagine. The fact they had on the Temple Mount, I just saw a picture recently of a couple thousand soldiers standing on the Temple Mount, like all in the formation, after they conquered it. This is something which, or at certain games that somebody won a big victory, the certain sports, and the roar of the crowd, the energy, and you could take a picture, you could describe it, but it's not the same. Moshe Rabeinu was on this way with Hashem. He experienced it 100%. Therefore, when you come to experience something, there's only a certain amount that you could see and reach, as we will talk about in a moment. Why? So Moshe Rabeinu, yes, in of course, when it came to understanding and reading about it in the book like the Rashbi and Arizal, he surpassed them. Of course, he saw Akudim and Keser and Chachma. Understanding, reading in a book, describing it in the conversation, he had everything and more that they had. The difference is, he also experienced it. And at the level of Moshe Rabbeinu's experience, that was limited to the 4 lowest middays: Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. That's the answer we're going to give. So the question was, how could it be they understood more? They didn't understand more. They lived in the world of understanding and logic. And in logic, they could reach whatever you want. You can read whatever you want. Some people, you climb Mount Everest. I read about it. I don't have to climb it. Yeah. Anyone who wants can read about it. You can read about anything you want. To climb Mount Everest is a whole different story. You only climbed it here. I read about the top. I saw pictures all the way to the top. All these experiences, I'm much better than you. Why? It's like, that's what they're saying. How could it be that Arizal went to the top? He didn't go to the top. He read about the top. Whereas Moshe Rabeinu was at the top. That's the concept. So how far did Moshe Rabeinu get? That's a Chayy said Malchus. But when it came to understanding, wisdom, talking about, thinking about, he was all the way up with Arizal and more. Let's see this inside. She says, Ach in Pasha, what's the answer? That we're talking about here to Iya, right? Like it says, now, even though, of course, you're using a metaphor, there is no vision, there's no sight, there's no looking, there's no seeing in the world of spirituality. You can't say, and Moshe saw, we saw, what do you mean you saw? There's like a person in front of you? By the burning bush, you can say he saw the burning bush, because that was a physical manifestation. God, gave the burning bush his presence revealed. So that's why he had the miracle. That one hand, the bush was burning, and it was actually on fire, and it wasn't being consumed. The impossible took place because God was there. But when you talk about seeing God at Sinai, he went up there and God was sitting there like an extender. Okay, let me explain to you one more time. I'm going to explain to you part of Bereshis, and then it's all an experience that we don't know what that means even, because we never were there. So Moshe Rabeinu, yes, like this he says. So even though it's a mashal, and a mashal is not the same, you can't have and it doesn't mean that Moshe saw with his physical eye. He looked and he saw, even though it says Mashiach comes, our physical eye will see godliness. But that's because it will change. But Moshe didn't see with his physical eye, like looking, wow. When it says he spoke to God face to face, it's not like they sat across the table at Starbucks, okay, God face to face. It means that he was able to see the full revelation of God on whatever level that was. But still, when we use a metaphor, it has to be the analog, the thing you want to explain, has to be similar to the metaphor you're using. And therefore, if we use such a metaphor, that means in the metaphor, just like seeing, vision allows you to experience it 1,000% being present. Moshe experienced 1,000% the level of godliness that was real to him, but only until him. Ugatagam vayedelav Hashem. How does a targum, Unculus? How does he translate when it says Hashem appeared to Avraham Avinu when on the 3rd day after his circumcision? It says vayedelav Hashem. What does he say? He revealed himself to him. That means Avram Avinu had an actual spiritual visual experience of God. That means what level of God could he see? Of course, only to a certain level. I don't know what it was, but I know Moshe was till Netzach Chod Yesod and Malchus. So, Shehu Bechinas Eskalus, which means a revelation, Shenigla Elav Hanelam Baruch Hu. He was able to experience a revealed state of that which is concealed godliness. Bechinas Eskalus, the true revelation. That means he was actually at the Grand Canyon. He was not reading about it, not hearing about it, not talking about it. He experienced it, that same true sensation that one could feel when he experienced something in being present. That is what it means he saw. He was present 100% to the whole experience. But when it came to the wise men of truth, we're talking about these men, who's the Chachmei Emes? The Kabbalists, the real Kabbalists, not the modern day Kabbalists who tell you the third Kabbalah. We're talking about the Arizal, the Shimon Bar Yochai, and the Ramak, the Moshe Rabeinu, etc. They didn't have Hashem in a revealed state where Hashem was revealed, like you can see him, so to speak. They understood. It was their mind. Someone explained to them. That means an angel or someone explained to the Arizal. And remember, this wasn't things they concocted on their own. The definition of Kabbalah, if you remember, Kabbalah means received. Kabbalah is not a word where you could say, I have an idea. I have a Kabbalistic thought to make up. You don't make up a Kabbalah. Kabbalah is facts. Facts you don't make up. Facts you discover. Like gravity. You can't say, I figured out. I made something called gravity. No. You could learn about and discover something called gravity. Kabbalah means you learn and discover about the inner teachings, the inner function of the world, etc. So Kabbalah means what they receive from their teacher, who receive from their teacher, receive from their teacher. Just to appreciate an idea, which is using Rabbi Elkan uses a metaphor to understand. He brings it down to explain the Rebbe. He asks in one of his talks. He says, "How come Chabad and all the other Chassidim all had Rebbes, and how come historically you find a very fascinating thing that when you teach a child, the first pasuk you teach a child is not Shema Yisrael. The first pasuk you teach him is Torah Tziva. It says in Shulchan Aruch, Torah Tziva Lano Moshe Menashe Yaakov. Moshe Rabeinu taught us a Torah and gave us as inheritance, and then it says believe in one God. He says, shouldn't you believe in one God, then learn about Moshe Rabeinu? It's like, okay, first let me tell you there's a Rebbe. Okay, now let me tell you there's a God. Torah Tziva Lano Moshe gave us a Torah, just to know that. And then it says, second thing you teach him is Shema Yisrael. He explains a fascinating thing. He said, imagine that there was a person who lived on a city area that had a heavy, thick wall all around him. And that wall not allow him to see the mountains and the hills and all the vision he wanted to see, he couldn't see. But in the one place, there was a cutout where there was a window. And someone stands by that window. He says, that is a Rebbe. A Rebbe creates a window through the blockage of the physical world. He allows you to see beyond and see godliness. So you have to have that window, meaning a Rebbe's definition, a tzadik's definition is to create a space where you could see past the wall. Once you can stand by the window, you could see, now you can see, so to speak, godliness is being blocked. Now, of course, don't get stuck by the window. Don't stand by the window and go, wow, look at the glass, it's so nice. Look, that's what the Rebbe didn't want. Don't look at me. Don't stand and look at me. Don't look at, you're such a great man. I'd like to hear that, Rebbe, you're amazing. Rebbe is, no, God. I am here just to show you what that is. But the bottom line is you stand by the window all day long and someone can say to you, what's your infatuation with windows? I like windows. I happen to like here is where I can see beyond the physical world. That's Moshe Rabeinu was that by the window. He was able to see beyond. Everyone else discovered what's on the other side of the wall. What's on the other side of this wall? Oh, there's a mountain, there's a hill. Moshe Rabeinu stood by the window and he saw what's on the other side of the wall. That's a whole different experience. So just to appreciate another way to understand this is the Arizal and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai were inside the wall and they heard and talked outside. Moshe was one to stand by the window and say, this pretty cool. I can see it. He saw with his eyes. It's a different type of vision. But we have to take a minute now to understand this because we have a big question. And this is going to be, I think, the context we're going to go now from here. The question is, but why only Netzach Chod Yesod Malchus? It says Moshe Rabeinu. It's like, what is it? Why are these four accessible? It says Moshe Rabeinu was able to understand. No, not Chachma, not Bina. I'm talking about understanding see, the vision, Re'iyah, the full experience, the Grand Canyon experience. Only from Netzach Chod Yesod Malchus. Remember, we have 10 spheres. Chachma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach Chod Yesod Malchus. So a few months ago, we spoke about these in depth, and we explained that there's the external and the inner definition of each of these spheres, and is also higher and lower. So I want to focus on the 6 or the 7 midais. It's really 6 and 1, but let's talk about the midais and understand how they're different than each other. Chachma bina das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Let's take a person for an example. You have your chachma bina das. That is your intellectual ability, intellectual capacity, your cognitive abilities. To chachma is an idea that gets sparked, comes to you without you can't really get it. It has to come to you. Initial idea pops in from your soul, from the wisdom of your soul into your brain, and you now could take bina and develop it, and das apply it. I think meaning apply it into an emotional state. Then you have chesed, gvura, tiferes. Chesed, gvura, tiferes are very different than netzach, hod, yesod, malchus. They almost seem repetitious if you look at their qualities. That's why they're layered one over the other, sets of 3. What's chesed, gvura, and tiferes different? They're called the inner emotions. Netzach, hod, yesod, malchus are called the external emotions. And we spoke about this a few months ago, but I'll just recap it real quickly. Chesed, gvura, tiferes is how I'm feeling inside. I am feeling chesed. I am feeling, which means I'm feeling attraction or love, or I'm feeling a rejection or strictness. I'm feeling empathy, tiferes. That's all the things that I feel inside, but it has nothing yet to do with other. While I need to have someone else that I'm feeling this about, so there's a feeling of emotion. Let's say a person comes in, I have so much love for this person, but I haven't yet taken that internal emotion and applied it to, I want to be kind to them. So the netzach, chesed, gvura, tiferes are how you experience internally the emotions of attraction or kindness, love, gevura, strictness, rejection, or education, judgment, or empathy, etc. But when you come netzach, hod, yesod, malchus, already how I'm expressing it. I'm giving somebody a basket of fruit. I'm coming to visit you. I'm saying a kind word. I'm being strict. All those are already how. That's why netzach and hod, if you remember, are the 2 thighs. Because until now it was inside. The thighs represent action. I'm now going to do it. That's what you say is the 2 thighs and the reproductive organ. But these represent action now to the outside with other. In other words, if I look at somebody else, I can't see and know what's going on in their mind. I can't see. Why? Because I don't have the physical ability to see what's going on in your brain. It's eternal. Even chesed, gvura, tiferes, I don't have the ability to see what's going on inside you. You're having a feeling. I don't know what that is. When could I actually know what's going on by you? When you actually express it. When you actually go and give a basket of fruit to somebody else. When you actually invite someone into your home. When you actually yell at somebody or cry. Now I know, and what I could do now is work on the thing 1 second. If you're giving this guy a fruit, you're inviting him to your house every week, or you're constantly saying nice things about them, probably like each other. So this is now I can start sort of working and saying that, why do you do that? Because you love them. And I can even go further. Why do you love them? I could start, working backwards. Or let's take another case. Let's say I'm sitting by the Kiddush. And I'm looking at somebody who walks in, has no place. And they're a little bit lost, and they need 4 seats, whatever. And I see someone else in the shul get up, where they always sit every Shabbos, and give the 4 seats away and go sit by the kids' table. Just making up a story. Anyway. So the bottom line is... Never happens. But the bottom line is, what does that mean? I saw this person do this. I saw their netzach, hod, yesod, malchus. I saw their expression. What happens to me now is, I start thinking, why did they do that? Because they like that person. Or they're very kind, they're very thoughtful, and very compassionate. They don't know who the people are, but they're kind people. And I start going, wow, this is something. And I can start now, what happens like this. If you remember what we said is, every time you have, let's say for Natzilus, you have chesed, gvura, tiferes, netzach, hod, yesod, malchus. And then in Bria, the lowest malchus becomes the top of Bria, and that becomes chachma. What happens now, when I saw someone else do, an external, I'm thinking about it now. And I'm now at level of chachma. And I could either respond or reciprocate, do the same thing. You know what? I'm going to do the same thing also next time. So what was that person's netzach, hod, yesod, malchus now becomes my chachma. I'm thinking about it. I'm cheseding it, and I can bring it to malchus, and someone else can see that. Meaning, that's the process, how it works in people. That's how it is by Hashem. By Hashem, there's a part of Hashem that you cannot see in a world of vision. You can experience a vision. Moshe Rabeinu could not experience in a visual way Hashem's chachma because it's not visually possible. The nature of chachma is not visual. Not because so much there's a restriction on you. It's not visible except within the person, what I'm thinking. As is the same chesed, gvura, tiferes. So why couldn't Moshe Rabeinu experience and feel Hashem, anything above Netzach Yesod and Malchus, because it's not possible. The nature of Netzach Yesod and Malchus, they're internal experiences that a person can't see. You could talk about it. I could bring it now to my Chachma and start thinking, if Hashem did this, probably this. I can start, working backwards. That's already the Arizal. I love thinking and understanding. So when it comes to understanding, Moshe Rabeinu could understand as high as possible. But what can he visually experience is only what midas, what spheres by Hashem are seeable. Not everything. There are some things that are concealed because something covers them over, because something's blocking, and there's something you can't see because they're not seeable. They're not seeable items. Someone's chachma is not seeable. If you look at somebody, even with the X-ray, you can't see it. Same thing, someone's bina, someone's chesed. What's the first seeable thing in other is netzach. And that's why Moshe Rabeinu couldn't see above it. Not as a critique of him, but know the nature of these items are the unseeable. Not because he was being blocked. Sometimes you say you can't see it because I'm covering over it. No, you can't see it because it's not seeable. It's something beyond, there are things they say beyond words. I don't have the word to describe it. Chesed is not seeable by any dimension, not by angels, not by anybody except internally by God. But understanding, that's a whole different story. It's a beautiful insight of the Alter Rebbe here. Let's see this insight. Okay. Let's see this. We have another few minutes. And therefore, we're basically right one line under where the brackets are, but in the middle of the line. V'lachein amru is a very interesting expression. It says chacham adif minavi. It says a chacham is better than a navi. How could that be? A navi sees God, and a chacham understands God. He thinks about God. The answer is very simple. Postcards, you can go anywhere you want in the world. With pictures, with the internet, you go anywhere you want. You want to be a chacham, understanding and learning about, you could travel anywhere you want. You want to experience it? You probably could make 5 big trips in your lifetime. How much can you actually go and travel to? A Navi who experiences things in a deeper way is very limited to how much you can actually experience, because how high could you go? But you want pictures? Climbing Mount Everest? Only some guys can climb Mount Everest, but anyone who wants to learn about it and see a picture. That's the concept. A Chacham, while he's not the level of a Navi, but if you want to go in the world of wisdom, you can experience intellectually and a certain level emotionally anything you want, or actually anything, much more than you could have experienced by the level of a nevuah. And that's what it doesn't mean that it's better, it's higher. It means it has more access. Because a Navi, his level that he functions, has limited access. How much? It's like, things you go, if you have a house, how much can I put in my house? If you don't have a house, then you have no limit. I can have as many pleasures as I want. There's many things I want, nowhere to put it. The Navi is a limited amount. I'm doing things in a way of actual experience, and for that, I can only get into Netzach Yesod Malchus. You want to learn about it? You can learn about anything you want. So Chacham has a much greater access than a Navi because he's dealing on a much lower level. Because he's able to understand in his wisdom. Talking about a real Chacham. Much, much higher and much greater levels, that which can be brought down to reveal to a Navi, in the way that they have visions in their prophecy. Why? The only things they can experience and actually visualize, meaning in the way they visualize, only the lowest levels, as we said, the 4 lower levels of the actual behavioral, as we can call them, emotions. You have emotions that are in feelings, and those that become actually in the stage of behavior. Behavior emotions, those are the ones that go down constantly. You can see it actually from the giver to the receiver, because in that world, you can actually see chesed. You can see gvura. I actually see someone bringing somebody a thing. Someone's giving someone their seat. I can see those behaviors. I can't see chesed, and I can't see chachma. Like in all levels of intellectual and all the life forces, as is known to those who study Kabbalah. Because what happens is, as you said before, everything is like a link. The lowest part of Asir, you said the Malchus, interacts and becomes the Chachma of the next world. That's what he says here. Because the way we could understand it is because the Netzach Yisrael Malchus above becomes Mislapshin Betachtein. It becomes now the clothes of the next level below it. To give it light. It's these spheres that carry the flow of energy and life force from the higher, like from Atzilus into Beria, etc. The Kol Eilamais v'Hamadregas. In all the worlds, in all the higher levels and lower levels, etc. V'lachein Gamkein, therefore also Hein Hamaskales v'Neviim b'Bechinas Galas Mamash. And therefore to those that behave in a way of behavioral, meaning these are the ones that are expressing themselves. The point out there I was saying is, where do you see what we spoke about, the guy getting up in the Kiddush? That's the person getting up. That's what we can see. So we can see that Netzach, you just said Malchus, the person getting up or the person not getting up. Netzach would be, actually in a way, it's resilience. Haid is submission. It depends what the person's doing. But it represents that behavior or emotion being expressed. Where do you find it in the spheres? The spheres are when you see the lowest levels of Atzilus now becoming revealed to become part of Bria. That's what Moshe Rabeinu could see. So Moshe Rabeinu could see, let's go back to one line to the top of the page. V'lochein, therefore, Gamkein, also Hein, these spheres of Nehim, those are the ones that are being expressed to become the level of Chayas to the next level, down below it. Those are Meskalis, Lenevim, B'chinas Galas Mamash. Those are what the prophets could see, actually see. And in there is Melubash Eirabina, and as you know, they could now extrapolate or say, okay, so if I see this, obviously this is where it came from, and we can start learning about the causes and things behind why did this person get up. Obviously, he's either very kind, or he understands the beauty of the mitzvah. We can start discussing and elaborating what was the chachma and seichel behind why the person got up. And that is the idea of understanding God, not seeing godliness, understanding. I can now understand. That's the Arizal. Why did he get up? Meaning, why did Hashem give Netzach Hod Yesed Malchus at lower level? And here's where we start debating and talking about it. But and in it is the bottom of Chachma, which means, again, if you go with this theory that everything is a cause and effect, that means Chachma leads to Bina, leads to Das, leads to Chesed Gvur Teferes, leads to Nehim. So if you have Nehim, you could say, okay, this was caused by, meaning, what's the real power behind the Nehim? Is Chachma. Meaning the real power behind the Nehim is the Chachma. We can't see it. Or Moshe can't see it. What could you see is the Nehim, the Netzach Hod Yesed Malchus. But you could now start learning about it and say, because of since the Chachma caused such a behavior, so we could start figuring out what type of Chachma was it. What type of Chachma was that causes behavior? Because the light, the fire, the force behind Netzach Hod Yesed Malchus is the Chesed Gvur Teferes that came before it, and before that was Bina, and before that was the Chachma, etc. And that's how you can understand it.
So the Nevi'im, they don't have Chachma Bina Dat, Chesed Gvur, and Teferes
of visual. Nevuah. They have that in understanding. They could have it in Seichel. They could read about it.
Like Avram was Chesed, all Chesed.
Right.
So it was in him, but you saw it in his action.
Right, but that now you talk about Midas HaChesed, not the same as Hashem's sphere of Chesed. Hashem's sphere of Chesed is Hashem expressing a certain level of, when we get down to Atzilus, it's already a very low level of Hashem compared to where it starts. But the question was, could a person, a human being, Moshe Rabeinu, even though he was half human only, could he actually see in the way of fully experiencing Chesed of Atzilus? So we say, no, it's not possible. But not because he was flawed, because it's not a seeable thing. That type of midah, that type of sphere by Hashem, doesn't have the nature of being seen. It's concealed in the person. In this case, it's concealed within Hashem. Only Netzach, which already begins to be behavioral motion, could be seen. So the Nevi'im could only see that which was seeable, starting from behavioral spheres, which are the lowest spheres. Understanding, I can understand about, not me, but the tzaddikim could understand even the chesed of Atzilus, and even higher, Chachma, and even Keser. And that's why the Arizal and the Rashbi wrote a Zohar, or taught about these highest levels, even though they're impossible for Moshe to experience, but not impossible to talk about. It's like I could write a book, or I could read about, or better, I could read a book about something I never saw before, because I'm not experiencing it for real. I can't go there, but I can read about it. And again, the more complex the experience, for example, when someone goes and sees, again, I don't know what examples would be in the world today of visual, but the more you appreciate, you can't even begin to describe it in writing what you saw in real life. And I can write about it. I guess in the negative, we could say the horrors of October 7th. No matter what you're writing about it, you can't imagine this 7-year-old child watching it happen. It blows the mind to try and comprehend it. So you might say, but I read about it. It's this kid, the rest of his life is not going to get out of his head, because that's negative.
Place, you already feel different.
Yeah, exactly. Just walking there, someone walks into the house. I didn't go into the house, but I saw the cars. Just seeing the cars that were shot up, it's just like, it's unbelievable. So look at the positive, which is always better. And it's someone who experienced some incredible thing. You were there, when, I always think about sports. That's the best example always of certain games that were unbelievable finishes. And so that was amazing. The energy in the air, the power, the joy, the jumping, But this is in the Kudah. So the answer to this whole thing is that Moshe Rabeinu we're talking about Moshe Rabeinu that Arizal is talking about what he was able to experience fully in this sense, what we call vision. And that's only until level of the lower spheres, lower midas. That's and down. The Arizal and Moshe Rabeinu himself, of course, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, they're talking about what you could read about, what you could understand and think about and discuss and analyze. That's talking about it's endless. I mean, the question is how much you misunderstand it and misconstrue it, or you get it properly. But anyone, a true brilliant mind and a clear mind and not damaged by impurities, could understand very, very high levels because of just reading about it.